This surprised me. Logan Paul, the world-famous Pokemon fanatic who just fought 8 rounds with Floyd Mayweather, shows up in my email inbox. So yeah, Logan Paul, he emailed me out of the blue, asked if I could make some animation for his latest Pokemon YouTube video. So how was it to work with Logan Paul? Well, I'll tell you more about that later in the video, but first of all, I want to give you a peek behind the curtain as to how this animation was made, what my process was to create this 2D animation for him. After Logan had contacted me, we discussed the details of the project, and the purpose of this segment of animation is to provide a bit of context and backstory on the origins of this card, called a Pikachu Illustrator card, the rarest Pokemon cards in existence. So I'm gonna let Logan explain it in the finished version of the animation that I made for him.
In 1998, a Japanese magazine called CoroCoro Comic hosted a Pokemon illustration contest. Only 39 winners were awarded the treasured Pikachu Illustrator designed by Atsuko Nishida, the creator of our beloved Pikachu. Today, no one knows for sure how many copies are left.
The aim of this animation was to explain the origins of this card and why it's so valuable. So in the beginning of this project, things were happening really fast. Logan sent me a voice recording of him reading the script. So now we had the time locked down for how long this animation was going to play out for. The narration of that script then gave me the backbone of the story, which meant that I could then start crafting the storyboard and the animatic. I like to sometimes do a few thumbnail sketches, and I was embarrassed to record my screen for some of these early drawings, but they developed over time into better designs. I was able to sculpt them and finesse them into something that actually looked alright. Joining me on this project, I had Jani Putzke. She's a very skilled Austrian freelance animator. Clad Even as my coloring assistant. And for some additional sound effects, I brought on Louise Jeanson. The theme of this animation is Pokemon, and so I knew that Jani had the potential to create animation in a Pokemon style because she's very versatile as an animator. And so I actually brought her in quite early on, actually in the animatic process. So I had this rough cut, work in progress animatic, and I just knew that certain parts of it I wasn't liking so far. I actually didn't direct her on a task. I basically said, whatever your instinct is to improve it, try and do that. I'm really glad that I didn't give her direction on how to improve it, because then I was able to get her to see things in the animatic that I might not have seen, and to bring her own solutions to it, which might not have been my solutions. And made some really key changes to the animatic in a couple of scenes in particular. She animated this card catch, which I really liked because it's like a reverse Pokeball throw. It looks so Pokemon in the way she catches that card and turns around. In the beginning as well, we just had this boring old timeline, and she said, why not start with Logan? This made the animation instantly just grab you. There's a much better way than just showing you this boring timeline. I was feeling good about the animatic, I was feeling confident, and we showed Logan the animatic. I would say this was about a week into the project with Logan. And he liked it, he approved it, so we went forward with the animation. It's at this stage that I make sure that I have references for every shot in the animation, and I like to put in that time to really study up on the source material, on animations of that style that we're going for. We have accurate references that we've studied so that we're mindful of that going into the animation process. Now, I think this shot is a really good example of how I use references. I used multiple references to inform my drawings for this shot. It's a very complex shot. It's a 3D camera movement. There's also a lot of dexterous things going on with the character animation. I first of all went onto Sketchfab, which is a website that has loads of 3D models, and I found several 3D classroom models, and I just explored them for a while in that view, just in the website browser, and I was looking for interesting camera angles and really getting a feel for the space of one of these classrooms. So after playing around for a little while in Sketchfab, I found some angles that I liked, and I created another reference. This time we're looking at the character animation. I set up a simple reference footage for myself at the camera angle I was anticipating. It was just me sitting down to draw at my desk. And you'd think there's no possible way that I could mess up drawing such a simple pose, but you'd be surprised. And finally, as the cherry on the cake, I found footage online of this expert pen spinner, because pen spinning is like a real, I wouldn't say it's a sport, but it's an activity people do. I found this guy and he has this video where he shows about 100 different pen spinning techniques. And I picked out a few that I really liked and I replayed them multiple times. Having that variety from the pen spinning expert, where I was able to choose from 100 different pen spins, was great for me because it meant that I could actually give each of these 3 illustrators a different technique for spinning the pen in their hands. So that just added that extra level of detail, which I love to go into for these animations. This is one of the things I was really excited to do with this project, because it was about an illustration contest, to portray these illustrators who are doing this illustration contest as like superheroes. So I wanted to give it this really dynamic angle. I wanted them to be super dexterous with their pen and illustration equipment, and just be like, oh, look at these guys, look at these illustrators. So from these 3 reference points, I had the main information I needed to create this complex 3D camera movement, pen spinning shot. And there are a lot of drawings that went into this shot. So many so that I did have to bring in Gianni to help me with the in-betweens with this, because I was going pretty mad in my room just from working on this shot. But I'm really happy with how this shot turned out. And that wasn't the only 3D camera move I had in the animation. So as you can see with this shot, it's a symmetrical shot. So I just animated all the figures on one side of the frame, duplicated that, flipped it round, so now the shot was entirely symmetrical. And then the last thing I had to do was to kind of change the outfits and the hairstyles on the flipped symmetrical side so that the characters looked slightly differentiated. And it was quite spontaneous, the kind of hairstyles and outfits I would give these characters and the colors and everything. And in my mind, I was just thinking the wackier the better, because this is in a kind of Pokemon universe with a Pokemon style. And if you ever seen the gym trainers in Pokemon, they always are just turned up with the wackiest spiky hairstyles and the craziest outfits and stuff. So I don't even think I went extreme enough. I think I could have gone further. Now this shot was all hand-drawn camera movement, which meant that I needed to constantly be working on the perspective and making sure that it aligned to that one-point perspective in the shot. And you know, you might say, well, why didn't you use a 3D software to help you with this? Why didn't you make this shot in 3D? I think if you rely on those kind of methods too much, it makes the shot feel rigid. And there is something to be gained from hand drawing it. Even though it takes a long time to hand draw, I really think it's worth it just because the animation feels fluid. The characters feel like they're flowing more. Even if it's imperfect, it feels alive to me. I think I spent like a full day just animating the Koro font that comes on screen on the comic book. So I got a little bit carried away with it, but I really wanted to make it bouncy, and so I was pushing these letters as far as I could with the squash and stretch to make them really bouncy and cartoony. It's rare that I actually get to go really cartoony with the animation style, so I felt like it was a good exercise for me. When it came to color design, I still find color design pretty difficult, but this is how I do it. I export stills from the Animatic, just the line work, and I bring those stills into Photoshop, And in Photoshop, that's where I start designing the colors. I start by gathering together a bunch of references, a bunch of inspiration, paintings and illustrations, and I put them in a big folder called Color Inspiration. Once I've got them in there, I actually color pick a lot from those inspiring images just to learn about the colors that are being used. I'm trying to go for palettes and color combinations that I think would be a good fit for the animation. Being a Pokemon themed animation, I wanted bright colors. I really liked these vibrant oranges, pinks, teals, fun colors that are friendly and a bit childlike. Now in Photoshop, there's a few tools to help me design my colors. I try to render one still frame and try and get a picture of what the finished color will look like. Once I have that, I create a color palette from that and I export that back into TV Paint. And then either myself or Clad or one of my animators will color that scene based on the palette and the preview that they can see from that Photoshop document. Really, when it comes to deciding the colors, I don't really have a formula that always works for everything. Really, it's a lot of trial and error, using a little bit of color theory, a bit of values and things like that, and just tweaking it, just over and over again, tweaking it. For this first scene, I took this a little bit further and I worked these gradients into the shadows and the fills and into the line work, which just gives it a little bit of depth, a little bit of complexity. So this was executed very well in the animation by Clad even. Before this project, Clad had never used TV Paint. So we got him a license in TV Paint and he picked it up really fast, like within 24 hours. I'm always looking for ways that we can go above and beyond with these commission projects. Even though Logan didn't ask for sound design, I figured this is one of those things I could do to deliver on more than what was being expected. Louise Jeanson had really impressed me with her resound of my animatic. I'll give you a little preview of what that sounds like here. And I think the sound design that she brought to this project really helped it to land with an impact. In this first shot, there was no definitive point where pre-production ended and production began. It just kind of naturally developed from animatic to animation. And in the last shot, there was a lot of this slow tweening and masking involved. So I mostly skipped over the TV Paint stage and just used Photoshop and After Effects for this. I think that this final shot, the world shot, needs a video all by itself. So comment down below if you'd like to see that video. The process sometimes just doesn't work for what you're trying to do. It's good to have a process. Like, I have a process that I know I can use to get results. But during every project, I question that process to see if it should be applied here or if I need to rethink that process. So working with Logan Paul, what was it like to work with Logan Paul? I know a lot of people already are familiar with his channel. All I can say is that from my point of view, he was super professional. His emails were super well written, very to the point, and I've got really nothing bad to say about it. Like, it was a great working experience. I know that's pretty boring. I'm sorry if I let you down. I think it's great when a famous YouTuber starts including animation in their videos because it introduces 2D animation to a larger audience, and that's what we want, right? I welcome new people into the animation space. I want more people to get involved with animation and to maybe even try making some animation. So if you are here from Logan's channel and you're seeing my channel for the first time, have a look in my archive of videos. Have a look on animatorguild.com where you can learn how to animate from scratch. If you enjoy watching animation, multiply that enjoyment by like at least a dozen, and that's what it feels like to animate, because when you're animating, you're in the controller's seat. You get to decide how something looks, what happens in your story, and that's just a level of satisfaction that you don't get when you turn on the TV. I will have more for you soon. So subscribe if you're not subscribed so that you see those videos. Hit the notification icon because you might not see it if you're just a subscriber. You might not. See you in the next one.